I love hydrocarbons, and so should you. If, however, you are a planet-saving greenie millennial asshole, I kind of hate you. You are a disgrace to humanity. So it's time for you to sit down, shut up, and admit what a pack of emotionally overwrought, first world designer, water-sipping, codependent, needy, hypocritical, out-of-touch bullshitters you really are. Because hydrocarbons rock. Do you think that was just slightly harsh? Neither do I. Let's get a few things straight. If you want to save the planet, be a friend of the Earth, recalibrate. Stop being a complete muppet. The planet is not at stake, and the Earth is not the kind of thing that can be friends with you. Reciprocity failure right there. The planet's had worse. That's a matter of geologic record. What's at stake, actually, is the future of humanity. Cloaking this problem, and there is absolutely a problem, cloaking it in the mist of altruism, doing it for the planet, is mentally retarded. It cannot help. This report is all about humanity's addiction to hydrocarbons, and we are addicted, absolutely, and it could destroy the climate, absolutely, and that could be the end of us, and the world lived happily ever after. But unlike heroin, crack cocaine, crystal meth, lysergic acid, diethylamide, our hydrocarbon addiction is overwhelmingly a good thing. In fact, you have to vote for burning even more, even though that might kill us all. The only way we can hope to save humanity is to burn even more hydrocarbons. That is the fundamental petrochemical paradox. So I'm going to break this down, and I dare you to refute my arguments using logic and reason. Have a friggin' crack at that, because I don't believe you can do it. But if you're a millennial greenie dickhead, get down off your self-entitled soapbox, because if you didn't bother to learn the history, if you don't know the thermodynamics, if chemistry and physics seem kind of irrelevant, or if school was just out of order when you grew up because you had, ADHD, or you were just FIH, here's the first bit of really bad news. Scientifically illiterate people are not entitled to an opinion on this, not one that can be validated. The vast majority of their hemp-wearing dickheads boo-hooing hydrocarbons do not even know what hydrocarbons are. So here's the hot tip on that. Hydrocarbons are a readily available, dense source of energy that is cheap. It's formed over millions of years by geology from the remains of ancient life, mainly ancient plant life. If you're scientifically literate, you know what that means. If you're a science moron, still in the dark, here it is. Hydrocarbons, coal, oil, natural gas, the big three. Carbon and hydrogen crammed together, cooked 2,000 metres down in the ground over geologic time. Slightly different cooks, slightly different forms of the same drug. And it is a drug, the best one we've ever developed. In fact, if aliens pop out of warp drive and probe us all from orbit, they would conclude that oil is our god. If you look at the functionality, oil is what we worship. The Christian god, Allah, Poseidon, Zeus, Thor, all the frauds, would never even blip on alien probing radar. There's a real God, it's oil, and you worship it devoutly, even if you're a greenie, by deed, if not word or thought.
When do we want it? Now!
If you think it's our big brains or our clever opposing thumbs that put us in this position of planetary preeminence apropos of the food chain, stop being a goose. The thing that sets humanity apart is thermodynamics. We are the only species on the planet that has access to vastly more energy than we consume in our food. It liberates us beyond belief. It liberated you, even if you are a hydrocarbon-hating greenie nutbag. Here are the highlights. Humans have been on Earth for, estimates vary, but let's call it 200,000 years. For most of that time, our species teetered on the brink of extinction. Life expectancy was shit. In the Bronze and Iron Ages, average life expectancy, 26. At the end of the 19th century, here in Australia, life expectancy was about 50. That's about double in 3,000 years. And we've added another 50% in basically a century. Amazing. When Jesus was walking around, on water allegedly, turning it into Sauv Blanc allegedly, there were about 300 million people on Earth. If you fast forward 18 centuries, about 1 billion, a threefold increase in 2,000 years. If you add just 200 more years, 7 billion people, give or take. Brains, exactly the same size the whole time, thumbs just as opposing. The only difference is access to energy, energy exploitation. If you think this is about cars, that shitbox Tesla going to turn things around, if you think that, you're an idiot. This is a much bigger issue. This energy, for those of you who really didn't study, means the majority of you, of us, no longer has to till the soil all day long just to eat dinner. It means we don't have to burn wood or dried camel dung inside our homes just to cook, just to see after the sun goes down, just so we don't die of hypothermia when it's cold. That's what emancipation feels like. Look around. Emancipating you from back-breaking agricultural labour means that you can study stuff, physics, chemistry, medicine, stuff that really benefits humanity. Jump in the car. No need to worry about starving here in the first world. There's an endless supply of high-quality, cheap food 5 minutes away. Thank hydrocarbons for that. And by hydrocarbons, I mean God. And praise the Lord also for how easy it is to collect that stuff and cook it. It's prolific, unheard of in human history. 1 billion people are alive today who would otherwise not be were it not for the Green Revolution. One of the greatest achievements of the 20th century, the mechanisation of farming using hydrocarbons. Petrochemical fertilisers from hydrocarbons saved the lives of 1 billion people. That is a truly green initiative, before that term was semantically hijacked by nutbag arseholes. If you're a green dickhead, please know that I am not cherry-picking this or making it up. The Green Revolution is an undisputed historical fact. Everyone knows who Usain Bolt is because we are so emancipated in the modern world, we can focus on crap that does not matter. And we idolise the wrong people. Look up Norman Borlaug. I bet you're drawing a blank, so I'll spell it for you. Legend, hero, mostly unknown, tragically. Norman Borlaug, a greenie I can respect. Nobel Peace Prize, 1970, credited with saving the lives of over 1 billion people. He used drive and intellect, genetic modification of cereal grains to increase yield, irrigation infrastructure, mechanised farming, logistics management, petrochemical fertilisers and petrochemical pesticides. Genius, hero. Brought to you by hydrocarbons. Impossible without hydrocarbons. 1 billion lives. He also won, among many awards, the Presidential Medal of Freedom and a Congressional Gold Medal, and the Public Welfare Medal and the National Medal of Science and the World Food Prize. Adolf Hitler commissioned the systematic mass murder of 6 to 11 million people. Everyone knows Adolf. Norman Borlaug, he saved the lives of more than 1 billion people using brains and petrochemicals. And nobody knows him, statistically. Doesn't seem fair. Norman Borlaug died on September the 12th, 2009, aged 95. A great man. Of course, insidious allegedly green shitheads paint a picture of humanity striving to achieve a kind of purity and peace, harmony with nature, which we purportedly also experienced before all of this evil corporate petrochemical industrialisation. The reality is, if we just eliminate hydrocarbons, we not only stop progress, we go backwards. We'll be dying in our 20s in childbirth, of infection, of simple accidents, or we'll just starve to death if it's a dry summer, because that's what real harmony with nature looks like. And we've already been there as a species. You can only paint this bullshit picture of natural harmony from a cafe in the first world ordering brunch. Every barrel of oil, 159 litres, represents bottled energy. The same amount of energy you'd get from 12 big strapping slaves working very hard for you every day for a year. You can rip it out of the ground in some impoverished shithole for about $1. It's essentially free, and you can sell it on the open market for 50 times that. That's a business model. Slavery in a can. And yeah, there's corruption and profiteering and exploitation. No argument there. All the wars are about energy. Exxon, BP, Shell, Chevron, sociopathic corporate cocks. It's impossible to love an oil company in exactly the same way that you can't be a friend of the earth. But nobody who alleges to be green is actually prepared to divorce hydrocarbons. The drug is that good. And even if you were prepared, how the hell would you do it? Eliminate hydrocarbons from your life. It's not possible. If you drive a car, if you turn on the light, use the internet, eat food from a supermarket, every kilojoule of energy in the food brought to you by 10 kilojoules of hydrocarbon energy, you're just not being green. If you suffer from cancer and get treatment, or if you just break your arm and front up to the hospital requesting help, as a greenie, you are a comprehensive hypocrite. There's no other analysis. If you are a purported greenie, pick the 6 people nearest and dearest to you. If you're not prepared to nominate which of them must die when we divorce ourselves from the green revolution by divorcing ourselves from hydrocarbon and go back to this pre-petrochemical, allegedly paradisical state, how about you just shut up? Because being truly green involves making some very unpalatable decisions. Which brings us to alternatives. We'll just use the wind, right? Or geothermal energy, or the tides. Good one. If you can say that with a straight face, you really have no idea. Less than no idea. This is about scale, magnitude. 15 terawatts. 15. Pretty big number. Homo sapiens leaves the light on. That's how powerfully our light shines, 24/7, 365. Our hydrocarbon power consumption. These alleged alternatives can never be more than a fraction of this total, owing to the fundamental physics, the energy density. The big 3 hydrocarbons, oil, coal and natural gas, are equivalent to burning 2.5 cubic miles of oil every year, cubic miles. The next biggest source of energy is biomass, and that means burning wood. Less than 1/10 of the hydrocarbon energy for that. And all of the others added together about twice as much as we get from wood, including nuclear, on a good day. You know, we could kick hydrocarbons with nuclear. I got no problem with nuclear energy. It's acceptably safe and the technology is proven. All we have to do to divorce hydrocarbons is build nuclear power stations, big ones. The biggest ones available currently are about 1 gigawatt, so all we need is 15,000 of them. And if we do that magically, the world's known reserves of uranium would be exhausted in 10 to 15 years. That's if we stick to uranium, U-235. We could get significantly more nuclear energy from breeder reactors. Breeder reactors make plutonium, and plutonium is the basic prerequisite for another kind of catastrophic climate change, especially in an increasingly geopolitically unstable world. So nuclear energy is a stopgap measure at best for humanity. Nuclear fusion, also possible if we get the technology, which we haven't yet. I don't know why. I mean, all they have to do is build a miniature sun, a star, in a laboratory and then scale it up to industro spec. What could possibly go wrong? But if we get fusion right, the deuterium in just 1 litre of seawater would be equivalent to about 300 litres of petrol, so a virtually limitless supply of energy. Unfortunately, fusion power has been 25 years away for the past 50 years, and guess what? It's still 25 years away. I guess hydrogen's got legs. The technology is proven, fuel cells, even internal combustion, all good. Unfortunately, labelling hydrogen green currently is emphatically a crock of shit, because industrial hydrogen is produced from methane, the simplest hydrocarbon. They jam steam into methane at about 1,000 degrees C to make a deadly poison, carbon monoxide, plus hydrogen gas. So that's nice. And then they jam even more steam into the carbon monoxide at a somewhat lower temperature, and that splits it up and makes a little more hydrogen gas. So ultimately, you start with methane, you add a bunch of energy, you produce carbon dioxide and hydrogen gas. Carbon dioxide. Sounding familiar? And problematically, you need to burn the equivalent of between 3 and 6 litres of petrol to make enough hydrogen to take a hydrogen car about as far as 1 litre of petrol would take a conventional car. So that's a kind of thermodynamic fraud, and it involves the emission of shitloads of carbon dioxide. So there's really no advantage, unless you electrolyse water to make the hydrogen. But that's expensive, and if the electricity is coal-fired, it's also only fraudulently green. So the only green option is to use the sunlight to make the electricity. Parabolic reflectors, photovoltaic cells. That's possible. Every day on planet Earth, the Earth actually drowns in solar energy. 15 to 20,000 times more solar energy than we use from hydrocarbons. But it's a question of adapting up. The photovoltaic hydrocarbon divorce requires about 200,000 square kilometres of photovoltaic cells. That's about half the area of a place like California. Currently, our species has manufactured as much as 10 or 15 square kilometres of solar cells, broadly about 1/20,000th of a potential solar cell solution. The benefits of hydrocarbon energy are astonishing, and every greenie denies them. And these deniers also use the benefit of hydrocarbons hypocritically to voice his or her dissatisfaction with hydrocarbons. But it would be ridiculous to suggest that there is not also profound negative feedback. There is. The arsenic, the sulphur, the mercury and coal that makes its way into the swordfish, right? The oxides of nitrogen, formaldehyde, volatile organics, and the particles in vehicle exhaust. Not good. But these things can be mitigated with technology. Cleaner coal, catalytic conversion, stoichiometric air-fuel ratios, exhaust filtration. It's all possible in the same way as we eliminated neurotoxic tetraethyl lead from gasoline. But there's no clever technical subversion for carbon dioxide. CO2 is intrinsic. While ever we burn hydrocarbons, CO2 emission is a foregone conclusion. And this is because hydrocarbons plus oxygen, that's burning if you're scientifically illiterate, it makes carbon dioxide, water, and a shitload of energy. You can't have the energy without the CO2. And the energy liberates humanity and saves lives, makes our lives better, vastly better, on balance. The negatives are a feedback effect. Would you rather be dead at 26, like a Bronze Age human, or worrying about the mercury in the fish, age 70, sitting in a restaurant? Wake up. Every kilo of petrol you burn, it sucks 3.5 kilos of oxygen gas from the air, and it emits 3.1 kilos of CO2 and 1.4 kilos of water as steam. And we burn it on a grand scale. It extends our lives and it advances our species exponentially. It even frees us up to bitch about hydrocarbons, and it might kill us all, worst case scenario. Does that sound about right? So let me wind up with this. 120 years ago, that's not very long, the biggest problem facing the developed world was a load of shit, in more ways than one. There were 50,000 horses in London alone in 1900. In New York, they had about double that, and each horse produced about 15 kilos of shit, about as much as your average politician today, when you think about it, and about a litre of urine. So crossing the road must have been great fun in a long white frock. Predictions by respectable scientists in respectable journals were dire. Cities would, they estimated, literally become submerged in shit. Pompeii in the modern world, only made of shit. I'm not making this up. What happened next was, of course, a technical discontiguity. The modelling got upended, thanks to the car. The problem, mounds of shit 30 metres high, simply evaporated. And I am not conflating horse shit with climate change. There is a very real risk we humans might engineer our own extinction by emitting too much CO2. To deny this is a problem is nuts. If the Greenland ice shelf disappears, if the thermohaline conveyor shuts down, if the deep ocean methane hydrates destabilise, it'll make the horse shit crisis look pretty lame. Climate change is a huge moral, ethical and technical challenge. To suggest otherwise is simply to be a fuckwit, in my view. Radio shock jock Alan Jones suggests climate change is nonsense all the time. We don't need windbags full of empty rhetoric and no grasp of science to participate in this discussion. We need the best minds in the business collaborating. We need to find a solution where energy remains prolific and cheap, where human advancement continues exponentially. I have enough faith in the human race to think this is possible. We need the best humans on the job for this, another Norman Borlaug. We need our children to embrace rational thought, critical analysis, science, hard science and engineering. We need governments to fork out the big bucks to support pure research. These are the only things which can hope to unpaint humanity from this particular corner. I would give anything to talk to the great Norman Borlaug about this problem. Anything. If Satan himself wants to visit me tonight, I will agree if that's the payoff. Move over Faust. But fuck politicians, they're only interested in re-election and feathering their own nests. As presumptuous as it seems to speak for this great man, I believe Norman Borlaug would say the solution to this predicament, this paradox, is obvious based on the data. So look at the data. What has underpinned all of humanity's big wins? It's all built on a foundation of hydrocarbons. But it wasn't really built, was it? It was burned. Relativity, quantum mechanics, green revolution, space exploration, advanced medicine. When we burn more, we get ahead. It really is that simple. Counterintuitive, offensive perhaps if you're a dumb as dog shit indoctrinated greenie dickhead, but dead obvious if you're a critical thinker. We need to burn more to save the planet. Correction, humanity. There is no other viable alternative. I'm John Cadogan. Thanks for watching.